Hi there, and welcome to week 1 of warm-ups for the French horn. My name's Libby, and today we are going to go over why it's important to warm up and look at some exercises that make great warm-ups to kick off our practice session. So let's get started. Now, just like athletes stretch before they start doing any real running or any real competitive sport, it's important for us to start really slowly with something that kind of stretches out our face to warm up. One thing people like to say is that each warm-up should start with something slow and low. And if you look at exercise 7 on the Chop Busters exercise sheet, you'll see that it's a great exercise that sort of personifies this type of practicing. So for exercise 7, this exercise is reminiscent of something called a Remington exercise, which a lot of brass players do. And the idea of the exercise is you're always starting on the same note, in our case F, and each time you're just descending a half step. By playing an exercise like this, we can focus on just making a beautiful sound with really good air support. We're not worrying about too much valves or too much articulations. We're just focusing on making a beautiful long tone with our air, and that's it. Before we get started here, let's take 3 deep breaths. It's really important for us to have good air going into this exercise. So I'm going to play this for you, and just so you can have an example of what to practice and how it should sound moving forward. I'm going to set my metronome to 80 beats per minute. And I'm just going to try to take breaths where needed, okay? Not too many, but I never want to play with the bottom little bit of my air. I always want to have good support. Good. So for that, I tried to make it through 4 measures without breathing. But if I were you and you needed to breathe at the end of each series, like da, da, and take a breath there, that's totally fine as long as you're making it through each successive phrase, okay? Each new phrase will start on F. And long tones really help us start to get the air moving, get our support going, and make sure our embouchure is in the right place it needs to be. The next exercise that we're going to look at for warming up is exercise 1. Now, this is a little bit of a lip slur exercise, so we're not going to articulate anything besides the first note. Now, we have to change valves for this because French horns are a little bit different than other brass instruments in that our harmonic series starts an octave up. But even though we're using the valve change, we're still going to try to play these straight through with a full flowing beautiful sound and not worry too much about the valves, but more focus on getting our support through each note. I'm just going to play a few of these series. I'll play the whole thing, and I'm going to take a breath at the end of each series just to be safe, to make sure I have air to get through the next phrase, okay? I'm also going to do this one at 80 beats per minute. Exercise 1. 1, Good. And it's important to try to play that phrase all in one breath and just make it really smooth. Let your air do the work for you. This exercise also goes down by a half step each time. F, then it starts on E, then E flat, then D flat. As you go lower, you need to keep your air really steady but slower moving to get through the slower passages. Scooting right along, the next exercise we are going to look at is exercise 4, which is a type of chromatic exercise, okay? And I figured for this week, since this is still relatively early in our warm-up, we would work on the bottom portion of this exercise, so that lower F chromatic scale, okay? When we articulate through these chromatic scales, we want to keep our articulations nice and light. Remember that our chromatic scale moves by half steps each time, okay? I'm going to also put this one at 80 beats per minute. And remember, if you need to breathe, you should probably breathe on one of the beats of the half note, the second beat. It's the lower portion of exercise 4, the lower octave. Makes sense, so I'm trying to keep my notes nice and light, just like little slices of long tones, really good notes. And this is supposed to wake up our articulation and make sure that we're tonguing ta, 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 and that air gets through each note, okay? I'm going to play that octave one more time, and actually I think I'm going to play the upper octave as well afterwards, just so you can hear what it sounds like. Here's the lower octave. 2. Make sure when you play anything that involves a lot of valve changes, try to keep your fingers right on the valves, okay? Don't play like, because that's going to make timing these notes a lot harder. Here's the upper octave version of this exercise. And you can also feel free to mix up the tempo in any of these exercises so that you're not always practicing at them at 80 beats per minute, but maybe some days you do 100 or some days you do 60, just to keep yourself on your toes and always practicing and extending the range of what you can do. The last exercise that we are going to work up for our introduction and warm-ups is an exercise that, if you were in a full band setting, would probably be a type of chorale, where everyone's playing together, making really beautiful sounds in chorale style. Chorale style is really connected. If you think of a choir, there's no like fast notes really. We're all just trying to make basically beautiful long tones together. And we don't want any gaps in the sound ever. So in a chorale, you never want to really breathe on the bar line or in an obvious spot. You want to try to breathe in a place that's going to be kind of hidden, where it's not going to sound like a big gaping gap of breath where everyone breathes at the same time. So for this exercise, it's just important to make it sound nice, smooth, resonant, making your best sounds. For this exercise, I'm going to play the first line right at 80 beats per minute, and I'm going to try to do all the things I just said I would. Awesome. So during that, like I said, you don't want to breathe over a bar line, so I actually took out the first note 1, 2, 3, 4 of the bar 4 before the end, which in real life is totally okay to do. I would practice it both ways, maybe breathing where you want, first as a warm-up, and then practice imagining, if you were in band, where are the obvious spots that most people would breathe? And like I said, in a chorale, it's okay to take a note out to take that breath, since someone else will probably be playing that note. Now let's look at the second line of this, where we have a little bit of a retardando in the last 2 bars, so we're going to want to slow down there. I'm going to play the lower split for this, and I'm going to start this line forte, and try to come away where we have the piano. I'm going to have 80 in my head, but I don't want to set it there so that I can do the retard. 1, 2. And I split up that exercise so I could show you with the tempo and without. In real life, you will try to play that chorale straight through, keeping that same beautiful sound. So that's all the time we have for our introduction to warm-ups for today. I hope you can start to incorporate some of these things into your routine, start to practice them and break them down so that they become a little bit of a habit for your practice. I'll see you guys next week.